Potentially live. I'm not 100% sure. Let me just.
Hey everybody.
Yes. Hello, potential viewers that potentially live. That we are live. Okay. Of course, once I go from the preview to the actual stream. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say that the screen share stopped working, but it's working again. Um, could you check on your end if you see the broadcast?
I'm checking right now, yes.
Okay.
I believe I can, yes.
Great. Awesome. All right, so I guess we can get started. As you can see, the title of the stream is What's Wrong with Gamers, which is apparently a lot because somebody's always got something to say about them. Um, but we're specifically going to talk about the slight controversy surrounding the delay of the game No Man's Sky, which has been delayed until August. And apparently, some people are really upset about that and just can't wait a couple of months.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of releasing a game when it's done. I mean, not like Duke Nukem Forever done, of course, but when it's what you want to deliver to the end user.
Final Fantasy 15, anybody? Uh,
Ugh.
I saw somebody call that Kingdom Hearts 3 today or something like that. I I guess they thought that the characters looked more like Kingdom Hearts characters than Final Fantasy. And if you tried out that demo, I can kind of see where they're coming from. It had like a very cartoony feel in the beginning of it.
Well, to be honest, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts, nor have I played the demo. So
I've honestly never played Kingdom Hearts either. I've seen screenshots pretty much.
I've seen people cosplay as Kingdom Hearts characters. Usually when I'm cosplaying as Kefka, I usually go up to him and say, I'm from a real Squaresoft game.
Oh man, that's awesome. But yeah, so this has been across the typical three. I don't have the other article up, but Polygon, Kotaku, and Destructoid. And apparently, the creator came out and said that he's gotten death threats over the delay. And the subtitle here is "Some fans go way too far." But I would argue, what kind of fan is a person that would send a death threat to a creator over a video game?
That's a fair point. Um, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be a little upset over a delay. I mean, I understand. I mean, if some of my favorite games that I'm looking forward to were delayed, I'd be a little disheartened myself. But to actually threaten the life of one of the devs, that's not a fan at all. That's either a troll or somebody who probably should seek some psychological therapy.
Yeah, that's kind of being detached from reality. I mean, honestly, what would a person like that think that the end game is there? Are they going to be like, "Oh yeah, now that this guy's threatening my life, we'll just put it out there anyway." I guess I'm just confused as to what they think the result would actually be. Unless it's like you said and it's somebody that's they see all this controversy with gamers and journalists and developers, and they're like, well, maybe if I go in here and stir the pot a little bit, I'll get on the news.
Yeah, I suppose their next step will make a van explode or something to that effect.
Oh, we have people in the chat, I think.
Yep, we got
Hello.
Allison who's thanking us for the stream, and Down with Plankers 101 is saying hello.
I think that Allison comment is from our last stream, which is weird because YouTube beta is just terrible with this streaming thing. They for whatever reason, the last comment from the prior stream always shows up in the current one, and I can't figure out how to delete that or why that is, or if it's me or if it's them. It's always something when it comes to YouTube.
Well, at least it's better than Google Hangouts.
But yeah, obviously I disagree with anybody that would go out of their way to try to threaten somebody's life over the release of a video game. I love video games, but to go that far it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a couple of months. The only way I could honestly see being that upset to the point where you're like, my life is over because this game is not coming out on time is if you yourself were given a certain amount of time to live from your doctor, and the game's delayed and you're going to be dead by the time it comes out. Even then,
Well,
I wouldn't threaten their life, but I'm just saying, like, that's the only way I could understand being so upset that you wouldn't, you would be so angry about it.
well, I mean that I could understand. I mean, if that was the case, though, there are things that developers have done in the past. I don't know about game developers, but movie developers. A child was terminally ill with some disease. I forget what it was. Wanted to see the movie Up
And they
before
give
they
them like
passed.
a private screening or something, right?
A guy with a briefcase chained to his wrist brought a DVD to him. They played it right in his hospital bed, and he like passed a few days later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's really what's going on here. I think it's just people on the internet that think they can say whatever they want without any repercussions. Because I mean, that's pretty much where we're at this point. But I don't like. I guess what I don't like about this is that we're getting to a point, or we've been at a point for maybe the past 2 years, where the label of gamer, which to be honest, I don't even really use, but the label itself, I know there's a lot of people that have their labels that they use to identify by and whatnot. And maybe I don't think it's an important thing to have your labels, but a lot of people do, and it seems a little ridiculous that every time something like this happens, these same websites come up and they're like, "Oh, look, it's just another example of gamers being terrible people." And it's like, "All right, why do you have to do that? Why do you have to lump everybody together just because of the bad behaviors of some?"
Yeah, yeah. It's like, well, I don't want to get political, but we'll say somebody said something about Muslims, just barring them from the country.
Okay.
And, you know, to me, that's like saying everyone who's Muslim, in their eyes, is apparently a terrorist. And it's like, that's not the case at all.
No.
I know some great Muslims, actually.
Yeah, it always goes to that point. It's kind of like when I was younger, being into games was kind of seen as a nerdy thing. And then as time went on, it got more and more mainstream, and then it was the cool thing. And now it's like we've regressed back again, where it's like, yeah, it's super accepted. Nearly everybody plays video games in some form. But now it's kind of cool again to trash on the label itself, where it's like, oh, these guys that these play these video games, they're entitled, they're living in their parents' basement, all those typical neck beard and all those typical stereotypes. It's like they're back in full full action.
What's wrong with neckbeard?
I don't know. It's apparently the worst insult on the internet.
Wow, I might have to shave. Um, so about that, I mean, lumping people together in general is just a knee-jerk reaction to a few vocal minority folks. Um, uh-oh, someone's saying not Polygon.
Yeah, not Polygon. I don't know what their problem is. Um, all these websites though, I'm not a fan of them. I try to go to them with like, I hate to even use the term at this point. I try to go to them with an open mind, and then I go there and I see that these articles, or what they try to pass off as articles, and it's always got to be something that's pushing. It's barely ever just reporting on games anymore. It's always got to be something that's pushing some sort of narrative, like, oh, you're problematic if you do this, or look at these entitled gamers doing this. For example, as I was saying, how it's cool to hate on gamers again. Well, this I'm putting up on the screen right now is a tweet that I came across earlier relating to this topic, and she's quoting somebody on Reddit that made a post that said, okay, who else appreciates that a subreddit of 50,000 people is being judged by the acts of, at most, a few hundred? And they said, this must be how racism starts. Now, one could argue this is an extreme comparison. However, The response that she gets to she says, this one particular girl says to this is, oh, she quotes it, this must be how racism starts. Like, OMFG, what is wrong with gamers? And so, I was like, okay, as in blaming the bad behavior of a few on the many, which is ironically what you've just done, you moron. Because while you, like I said, while you could argue that's an extreme comparison, the line of reasoning is there. It's where you've got those racist guys that'll, they go and they watch my video about that whole Black Lives Matter thing, where it's the guy saying, "Oh, all white people should be killed" or something like that, and then they take that person and they use that as an example of, "Oh, look at all black people are like this," and it's like, no. No, that's not how it works. And that's exactly what they're doing here. So I do understand the comparison, and I feel like it's funny. Her reaction to this is funny because it basically just goes to prove the example that was being given. And the other thing was Jason Schreier of Kotaku is the one that wrote about this. And he said he got a death threat sent his way for reporting on the delay. Now, I checked that out, and he has me blocked, but apparently I can still see the tweet. He says what it's like to write about video games on the internet, and he posts a screenshot of a message that he got. And the message reads as follows, as soon as I can get it to be the right size. Your little article about No Man's Sky being delayed has made me hate you to my very core. It's the only thing I live for, and you go and write that bullshit about a delay. Instead of visiting London later this month, I think I'll come by and say hi to you and fuck you up. You think you can get away with this that easy? Making fun of our Reddit page also? Sounds like you have a death wish. We will find you. Be afraid, human. We are coming for you.
All I can do is facepalm. I know the stream can't see me doing this, but it is all I can do in response to that.
The thing is, if I received a message like this, I would honestly be laughing because it's worded like a bad video game villain.
X-Men, welcome to die.
And it's just the fact that he takes this one message and he's like, oh, this is what it's like to write about video games on the internet. It's like, if you have it so easy, because going to your website and seeing what constitutes as an article, I mean, there's like 3 paragraphs here, and it's nothing of substance, and that counts as an article. You have the easiest job in the world, and you're taking the one terrible message that you got and saying, oh, this is how terrible it is. It's like, at least if you're going to say you got a death threat, try to make it something that reads more seriously. I understand that it's completely wrong of this person to send this message, whether they're just being a dick or not. But to make it sound as though it's genuine, I don't understand how anybody can read that and think so. And then you've got people down here that are like, I take it you already reported them. And somebody said, I don't know if I'll come across the comment, but they're like, that's actually pretty terrifying.
I mean, you should never take death threats lightly, but on the other hand, you gotta understand that when you're writing for Kotaku, of all things, you're gonna have a few people pissed off at you every once in a while. This is clearly a matter of somebody's upset, they're taking it out on somebody else, but that person should have a slightly thicker skin on them in order to just brush it off and not blast them on Twitter.
Yeah, and the problem is that I'm sure that he realizes that this is probably, because if not, he has to be one of the most dense people on the planet to realize that, or to not realize this isn't serious. But what they're doing is they're sensationalizing so that they can keep writing about this stuff and get more clicks and more attention and more people on the bandwagon of this is the attitude of the majority of people that play video games, and that's just simply not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if this was something that he took seriously, he wouldn't put it up on Twitter. He wouldn't sensationalize it. He'd call the police. He'd call the police, find out who this person is, and have them arrested.
Right, and if he did actually call the police and still posted it online, normally, from what I understand, the police tell you not to do that kind of thing. You're supposed to keep it in private while the investigation is going on.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to tamper with the investigation.
So either he didn't report it to the police, or he's foolish and is getting in the way of a police investigation, which either way, not a good
Either
idea.
way, the guy's kind of a dick. I don't curse very often, so that should show you just how little I think of this particular Jason Schreier person.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, I don't have a high opinion of the guy, but like I said, I don't approve of people sending these kinds of messages to others because it doesn't do anything of value. In fact, all it does is create drama like this where now this is what people will say is the typical attitude that's going around when it's just, a handful of people with nothing better to do with their lives than harass others.
Well, in Japan, and this is just, I'm sorry, I'm digressing here, but
Sure.
in Japan, back in the day, you could be called an otaku and not have any shame behind it. In fact, one otaku would go to another and be like, "Oi, otaku," whatever. But then after one or two of them committed some very serious crimes, it it became a very negative connotation for that term.
I actually have to look into that. That's interesting.
At least that's what my Japanese teacher taught me. So,
Yeah, so it's like, all right, I guess in a way they can argue, well, we're a video game website, so we not only talk about video games, but we talk about the so-called culture surrounding it. But I feel like the way they do it, it's the way that they go about it. I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to talk about these things because they should. They should showcase it and they should show, that this is not the way to be behaving, obviously. But when they do it in a way that conflates it with everybody, it's kind of like everybody's punished because of the bad behavior of a few. And then you have people on social media that go out of their way to write things like the one girl in question that we just showed there, where she's like, "Oh, what's wrong with gamers?" rather than "What's wrong with this person?" Which, granted, their point was actually spot on, but if she thought that there was something bad about it, call out the individual, not the group.
right. Down with Plankers 101 wanted to know why you were blocked by Jason Schreier.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I even remember. It was probably something stupid. I remember why Patricia Hernandez blocked me, but I don't remember why Jason did. Yeah, I cannot remember. I'm sure I said something that he didn't like. I've never insulted the guy, but I'm sure I responded to one of his tweets and it was disagreement and we can't have that on the internet, so, you know.
We are, crap, what is that term? We are a hive mind. We all must agree. Or you must be kicked out of the hive mind.
Well, as it stands, I'm not sure who's allowed to be a fan of video games anymore because it seems like these guys have it in their head like, oh, we're done with this labels, but we're the right kind of gamers, and anybody else that doesn't want to portray our narrative or doesn't act like or that doesn't act like us is ostracized from the community. And it's just kind of stupid because no matter what community you consider yourself a part of, there's always going to be bad people involved in it. And that doesn't mean that you're automatically like them simply because you share some common interests.
God, I hope not, because I know some gamers out there that they. Let me put it this way: there are a couple gamers out there I'm aware of that don't quite know what a bar of soap is.
Yeah, it's just I've always thought it was stupid to judge people solely by a label. I understand that it's shorthand and generalizing is easy when you're talking about on average, but even if you're talking about on average in this case, it's not accurate.
And I'm very confused by how these are supposed to be game journalists, and yet they can just say, what's wrong with gamers as a whole, when they themselves are in that group. But like you said, they're supposedly the right kind of gamer.
Well, they're the new age gamer,
Oh, you
or
mean the halos and the teabagging and the
and
all that stuff?
and supporting feminist frequency, no matter how many times she cons people out of money, which is amazing. Like that drives me insane because these guys seem to be all about calling out these bad behaviors, but nobody's pointing to the none of these websites are pointing to the fact that, well, she was given 150 grand or however much, but never completed that series, and then had the nerve to start a new crowdfunding campaign for something else, and get funded for that. It's like
Well,
wouldn't that be? I mean, just imagine if it was some guy that they disagreed with on something, or with the style of artwork for their video game or something, which is actually, I believe, something that Schreier did. I believe he referred to. I could be thinking of the wrong writer, but I believe he's the one that referred to the artist of Dragon's Crown as like a teenage boy or something because of the character designs and the large breasts and whatnot.
hmm. Well, I mean, people have a right to spend their money however they'd like. I mean, I'm not going to fault them for that. I just wish that people would be a little wiser with their money. But I mean, that how to put it? Um, if somebody really wants to support her, it's not my business to say otherwise. But on the other hand, she should deliver on what she promised.
Right, and I just feel like if we're pretending that we're reporting on news in the gaming industry or whatever, then why is that exempt? And but here's the thing: they actually, I believe they might have posted something about it, but instead they posted her message where she was like, "Oh, I know it's been late, but all these threats have kept me from working," and it's like, all right, look, you don't even have to be connected to the internet to record your videos. So, I mean, if Twitter is stressing you out so much and the block button for some reason isn't effective for you, which I don't understand, then you have the option to take a break from that and focus on the things that supposedly are making you happy. I might not be a fan of her work. I'll never understand any of the crap that she comes up with for why these games are problems or portraying sexism, but she obviously has every right to think so, but I don't think it's fair to constantly trick people into spending their money because she has chosen the correct trendy narrative at the time that people want to hear about, and they'll support her simply by extension of the fact that she's a female claiming to be harassed. And once again, I don't think it's right if anybody is going out of their way to do that, but at the same time, I'm not going to defend someone who's clearly doing shady business practices.
Yeah. So remember I said I wasn't going to get political?
Go
I'm going to
for it.
stop myself right now before I get political.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, I mean, uh, I don't want to offend anyone in the audience.
But that's what
I
my
mean,
streams are all about. I have people just they're like unsubscribe. No, I don't know. But no, I mean I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, anybody, in my view, anybody that is that concerned with an opposing opinion probably shouldn't be listening in, because the point of this show is to talk about whatever's on our minds, and anybody's free to disagree with that, but I don't think the answer is to just turn and run. Like, I've always thought, if you disagree with something, just either state your counterpoint or say, okay, well, maybe I like some of this person's content, but we don't always have to see eye to eye on everything.
okay, well, I mean, I guess I'll drop the bomb then.
Sure.
Okay, so a woman who is getting support from people just because she's a woman and has had some shady dealings in the past.
Is this
Kind of,
Hillary Clinton?
yes. Oh, hey, Marketing's in the stream now.
I knew that was going to happen.
He's hanging out
Oh,
in
hey.
chat.
I did get his Skype message. I just haven't been able to answer because I'm babbling, and I know he doesn't have his microphone with him, unfortunately. Otherwise, he'd be
Ah,
in here with us.
a pity.
But yeah, yeah, I can see that comparison. I don't know if anybody that watches me has any love for her, but I think regardless of what somebody thinks of the politics, even say if someone agreed with her stances, I would think any reasonable person would disagree with somebody supporting her simply because she has a certain set of genitals.
You'd be surprised.
Well,
I
that's I
have
think
bumped
that's
into a
just
couple people.
I think that's just by extension of there not being that many people that understand how actual critical thinking works, or even basic thinking.
Well, I mean, people are going to support whoever they want to support, and they have their right to support whoever they wish to support. I just think that some of their reasoning might be a little on the silly side. That's all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I feel like when it comes to something as important as the presidency of your country, you should probably have a better reason than that. But you know what? It's the same thing that happened last election, really, where people were less interested in the actual politics and more interested in the identity politics and the so-called making of history, where it's like, oh, um, once again, regardless of what you think of Obama and his stances on things, this is not about that. But I don't think anybody should have voted for him simply because they wanted to see a black president. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
um,
I wonder if there might be something wrong with my mic because Makin is asking if I'm speaking at an auditorium.
maybe, maybe it's me. Maybe it's because I have my volume turned up so loud, and I'm forgetting that I'm like double broadcasting you because I'm not wearing a headset simply because it's friggin' hot in this room tonight.
Ah,
Okay, that probably made it better. I actually had the volume up full blast because I had both fans on before, and now that I don't, I imagine the speakers are a lot louder. So hopefully the auditorium effect is gone.
what's an MRA?
MRA stands for Men's Rights Activist, and after I've told you that, you might be wondering how on earth is that an insult? Uh, I don't know. That's my answer to that because because it sounds like a good thing in theory, but when it comes to the whole progressive narrative, I guess we'll say, MRA is now used as an insult to basically label anybody as a misogynist, somebody that stands against women in general or feminism.
Okay, because one of the chatters, Zeal Gold, said that feminists are calling anyone who doesn't support Clinton an MRA, and I was like, what does MRA stand for?
Oh, geez, that too. Well, they were doing the same thing to James Rolfe last week or 2 weeks ago when he was talking about the not he wasn't going to see the Ghostbusters movie. I did a little thing about that already though.
Oh, I missed it. I was probably on vacation.
Yeah, it was pretty silly. The funny thing is that he didn't even mention anywhere in the video that the reason for it had anything to do with a female cast. And yet they still basically it's at the point where it's just like Anita Sarkeesian, any criticism is because female and not because flawed reasoning.
I suppose because I play Overwatch, I'm a misogynist because I like to play as Black Widow or Mercy. Um, and I've not played as the I don't even know her name. I'm so unfamiliar with the game. I only played like 2 days worth. But that one muscled woman that's much larger than.
Oh, Zarya.
Yeah, Zarya, I guess. I haven't played as her. I guess I must be a misogynist.
Clearly.
Of course, I can't actually see my character, so it doesn't really make any difference.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was like, they have all these cool characters in this game, but it's first person, so you're only seeing your opponents. It's like I'd almost want to choose the person I don't really care to play as, and then look at everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no other view mode in that. I have no idea anything about Overwatch
I've
aside
only
from the
played a little
characters.
bit, honestly. I mean, I'm only like level 5, which means I've played like 10 games. and the games are really short. They're only like 5 minutes apiece or something like that. So, and
Hmm.
I'm usually a medic or a sniper because I like being a medic or a sniper. It has nothing to do with what they look like. In fact, when I played Team Fortress 2, I was a German guy that had a medigun all the friggin' time.
So Nazi sympathizer? No.
Well, he did do some experimentation on humans, but
It's
never mind.
okay. It was in the name of progress.
Actually, I don't know if you've seen a video on that, but he does actually quote after making someone's heart explode, "That is the sound of progress, my friend."
No, I actually haven't, which makes it much more entertaining.
Someone's saying there's a static sound, probably from me. I'm wondering.
Yeah, I just started getting that. I don't know what that's from. I think it is on your end, though.
I apologize. I'm screwing up the stream.
Well,
Here, let me try muting myself and unmuting.
sure.
Any difference?
No, it's actually worse.
Here, let me try one other thing.
Well, sorry, folks. This is I can always restart the call if it doesn't work.
How about now?
So far,
Okay.
now it's back.
Well, sorry. I'll have to pick up a new headset or something. It's probably hardware related because this headset is at least a couple years old.
uh, well, I'm really not sure. I have too much more to add on this. Basically, I don't know what it is that these people like. I don't understand what their end goal is here because they're basically constantly berating their own audience. And granted, Kotaku has a surprising amount of agreement in their comment section. Like every time I read their comment section, I'm just blown away by how many people buy into this stuff and they're but you know what? I feel like it is a case of here's this guy pointing to the absolute worst scum of society, and then you have everybody jumping on the bandwagon to point at that person and say, oh, look how terrible they are, so that they can feel like they're good people.
Yeah. Makaton says the problem is clearly because he's not on the stream.
It might be. Skype has decided to oppress us.
No! Where's my men's rights activist right now?
He's probably defending the sanctity of your foreskin. Sorry, I had to
Um,
go there.
Fair enough.
I'm sure that joke is probably going to anger a few people because people get very, very invested in that argument.
Eh. You can say pretty much anything to me. I don't give a crap. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I just might, poke a little fun at the opinion. Like, normally I'd say, what foreskin? But I didn't want to offend anybody. But, I'll do it. Whatever.
You gotta poke the herd every once in a while to see if they're still paying attention. But yeah, I think if a game gets delayed because they don't think it's going to be, ready in time, then it's absolutely important for them to delay it and not release it to the public because we're pretty much getting to a point where it's okay for game developers to just release like half a game and they'll be like, "Oh, we could just patch it up later, no big deal. We won't offer any discount on the price. We're still going to charge you the $60 as if it's a complete brand new game." But we'll get around to fixing things when we feel like it.
Oh, that reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard the controversy about the new Tony Hawk game that came out recently.
I haven't.
So, the physical copy of the game is just a tutorial level.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's even worse
When,
than Street Fighter V no arcade mode.
when you install it, you have to download the rest of the entire friggin' game, which is like a 7 gig friggin' thing.
Wow.
And the only thing that's on the physical disc, which, by the way, the physical disc will be completely useless if you don't, if you're a collector.
Yeah.
Uh, it'll be completely useless if you hold on to it and try to play it at a later date when the servers are shut down and they're no longer, you know, letting people download it.
Oh, that's yeah.
Here,
And
I gotta look it up here.
all right, sure. If we find anything, then we can post it up here on the screen. But that's insane. I don't understand. I feel like what really, we can blame the game developers all we want about when it comes to stuff like this, but ultimately it really comes down to the consumers because people are buying these products and allowing them to get away with it because they're still profiting off of it. If enough people took a stand and said, "Okay, we're not going to buy this crap anymore," then they would have to do something because they would stop making money.
Yeah.
I mean, most of my interests tend to not be in games that get this kind of treatment, so I'm already not buying them, but if I were interested, it would certainly turn me off.
Okay. The only thing I'm seeing in the controversy is that. Oh, here we go. This, the last paragraph of the article I'm sending you
Okay.
has what I'm talking about.
All
The
right.
entire game is rubbish, but or rubbish, but this the fact that the patch includes quote unquote additional content. Uh, yeah,
Okay. Wow. Let's see. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is a broken mess even with the 7.7 gigabyte patch.
that's the rest of the game outside of the tutorial.
Almost
That's
double. So they've got 4.6 gigabytes on the disc and then another 7 to download, and apparently it's full of glitches. Inexplicable physics, collision detection problems, and for this type of game, which is basically, doing a bunch of skateboarding tricks, those kind of things are going to be a big problem. I mean, they'd be a big problem in any game, but this is especially the kind of thing where you need accuracy.
yeah.
I haven't
Sorry,
played a
didn't
Tony
mean to
Hawk.
sidetrack you. But
No, no problem. This is actually interesting because I was out of stuff to talk about with the first one, and this kind of ties into more gaming related stuff, which is what I've wanted the focus of this stream to be. It's been a while since we've talked about gaming stuff, and
but you see how they don't blame the gamers for people being disappointed in the game.
yeah, that's the interesting thing. It also seems like there are certain things that are targeted. Like, for example, people were pointing out how, okay, well, all these people are criticizing Ghostbusters, and that's being blamed on sexism. But where is the blame being placed for the people that are complaining about the new Call of Duty trailer, which I heard is apparently very disliked?
Call of Duty. That's
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan in any way, shape, or form, but it's interesting that it's okay for the crowd to that usually likes it to trash all over that, but it's not okay for Ghostbusters fans to dislike a new iteration of something they like.
well. I mean, if if there was a cameo from all the original Ghostbusters in the new one, I would
Apparent,
see it.
apparently there is a cameo. Um, well, obviously not Harold Ramis because he's.
Well, no, no. I want to see Harold Ramis be caught.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, but obviously there's not, they don't have him in the movie. But they've got the other three guys having cameos, but they're not playing their original characters. So
Oh,
it's like it's basically washing over the old storyline and world which is stupid because they're still just titling the movie Ghostbusters. This is a point I made in the Ghostbusters video that I did, but I feel like they shouldn't be using the namesake since they're really kind of starting over. They should name it in a way that they can name it Ghostbusters if they really must, but they should name it in a way that also differentiates it from the 1984 film rather than, oh, here's Ghostbusters 1984 and here's Ghostbusters 2016.
Well, that's one of the things that irritates me about films in general. Is I mean, I'm a big horror genre fan. I like Friday the 13th. I'm a big fan of that series. Despite how corny and cheesy it is, I love it. Then they went and remade it with some other guy as a director, and I'm just like, okay, so now they're undoing everything they've done in the past and starting fresh with a new storyline, and everything that has happened up to this point has been completely negated for no apparent reason other than they want to grab money.
Yeah, and that is a big problem in Hollywood. It's like everything is just a remake of something else or a movie based on a book. Which there's nothing inherently wrong with a movie based on a book. It's just that sometimes it just ends, or most of the time I would say, it ends up just being a mess in comparison. And I know some of that is part of because it's very difficult to confine, a 500-page novel to a 2-hour movie or an hour and a half movie. But if you're going to do something, try to do it right. But I feel like the standards for everything are just so low now. Even when it comes to video games, people are just like, oh, they go out of their way. These fans go out of their way to make excuses for these companies where it's like, oh, they'll patch it, or you expect a physical copy of a game in 2016, or something ridiculous like that. And it's like, guys, how long have you been playing games? Like, don't you remember that there was a time where games were actually released complete? There was no need for a download patch that would fix everything that should have been fixed before it was released.
DLC.
I mean, there were games that were buggy in the NES days and stuff like that, no doubt, but I don't think it was the majority.
Well, even if they were buggy, they didn't expect you to. I mean, this is back in the day when you could rent a game, not have to install it on your system, but play it, see if you like it, and then buy it if you liked it. Nowadays, if you rent a game, you got to install the patches, you got to install the updates, you got to do all this other stuff. I don't have anything wrong with digital copies, but I do like having that physical copy on hand.
I do too. And I would have less of a problem. Well, maybe not, but I think the digital copy thing would be slightly more acceptable it didn't if it felt more like your product, because there's been a couple of times where I have lost digital copies of games that I've bought simply because of something stupid like I can't transfer it to a new account, or you lose an account, and it's just
Heaven
like
forbid you forget your Steam password.
I've never done that, but I'm afraid to see what would happen. But I think at least with Steam that there's something set in place so that if Steam ever went downhill, you would still be able to play all the games that you bought through them. I mean, as long as you had it installed on your PC anyway.
Well, that's kind of why I'm gravitating away from console gaming. I mean, I used to be a big console gamer back in the day. But nowadays, when your computer functions as the every console, where games blur the line between consoles and only a few quote-unquote killer apps are available on one console or the other, I find myself questioning whether or not consoles really are going to survive this quote-unquote console war. I mean, the PS4 and the Xbox One have not produced, neither of them have produced any superior killer apps that I can't get on the PC.
Yeah, I'm actually really disappointed with my PS4 purchase. Kind of regretting that because the one game that I was super excited for, I found out today, or I realized today anyway, actually isn't even getting a physical release. So I'm just going to go buy it on Steam. Because to me, it just doesn't make too much sense to buy anymore. The only reason I was going to buy it for a console was because I thought, oh, I'm going to get a physical copy and maybe like a physical pre-order bonus, but they're not doing that.
See, that's the thing. If the reason I like physical copies is because I can get special bonuses if I pre-order. For instance, and I hate to go back to Friday the 13th, but I'm going to do it again because why not, right? The game that I pre-ordered for Friday the 13th, the game, is going to come with this cool steel machete carrying case. I don't need it because I'm getting it for the PC, but the fact that I can display that in my room, hang it where I'd like to, carry it to LAN parties, that to me is big.
Yeah, I like just having something that I can take off the shelf. Or you know what I even miss? I just miss opening a case and seeing a manual in there, and then taking that manual out before I even play the game and just flipping through it. You know, seeing maybe some artwork, some screenshots, some plot synopsis, and character backgrounds, things like that. Though that was huge back in the day for me.
Well, I mean, I liked those things because when you have these tutorials in game, a lot of times they treat you like you don't know what the hell you're doing, like you have no common sense. Like the Overwatch tutorial. It assumes you've never played a first person shooter before. So it tells you how to walk straight,
Oh
how to
man,
strafe, how to move the mouse to aim.
is it skippable at least?
No.
See that is my biggest complaint with modern tutorials. Well, even something as early as Final Fantasy VIII. There's that whole tutorial bit in the beginning that you cannot skip, and to me that just kills the replay value. Because when I play something for the first time, it's like, all right, sure, maybe you got your little tutorial bit, or I liked it better when they did optional, where you could go to like the tutorial room. But if they're gonna have their thing in there where every gamer has to see it, then okay. But at least give an option to say yes or no. Because the second time around, I don't want to sit through that.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, games like Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IV, if you wanted to go to the school, you could go to the school. Now, I played it so many times I just go in there and loot the stuff out of there for, storage purposes. But the fact that you didn't have to listen to all that stuff, you could just move right along with the game, get the story progressing, that was big.
Yeah,
Nowadays, though, they treat you like, I mean, even Undertale, a game that I'm very fanboyish over, it has a tutorial of sorts that you cannot get past. But the replay value is such that if you want to see all three endings, you have to replay it.
gotcha. I guess some people might say that that's kind of a nitpicky thing, but oh, this is actually hilarious. It's coming up. It's because it seems like nobody wants a challenge anymore, and I'm not even somebody that is like all, oh, I play the hardest video games ever and I master them on raw skill, because I don't. But at least back in like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, barring the use of a Game Genie, you had to not only dive into the game headfirst and play it and figure out things for yourself, but you also had to at least rely on some form of skill to get further, rather than having all this hand holding and all this infinite continue. Which infinite continues don't necessarily bother me. I mean, now that I'm older, I feel like infinite continues are a bit more of a good thing, just because you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning of a game. And of course, with how much longer games have become, going all the way back to the beginning would probably be hell. Um, but just, you don't need a checkpoint every 2 seconds, or you don't need developers dumbing down the difficulty so that it's just so easy it doesn't matter. And that leads me to another thing where I don't remember what publication the writer was for, but he got shit on really bad because they were saying he sucked at Doom. And then these articles came out where the journalists wrote like, "Oh, you don't have to get good to play games." And it's like, all right, look, nobody's saying that you have to, quote unquote, get good to play video games. What they're saying is if you are in a position of reviewing and presenting games to the public, you need to at least be competent at it so that you can showcase the gameplay itself rather than you struggling against the system. Because they said that the gameplay footage that he recorded was very jumpy. Anybody that watched it would think it's a glitchy mess rather than some guy just enjoying what is a good game. And I think it was Doom they were the new Doom game that they were referring to.
See, I haven't seen a new Doom
I'm
game.
gonna
But
see what I can find on that.
while you're doing that,
Something.
one of the chatters did bring up a very excellent point, in my opinion.
Sure.
They didn't want, or Willie Presig, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, doesn't want anything like Dark Souls. And I get challenge. I grew up in the NES days, but Dark Souls and games like Dark Souls, I can't do it. I can't. It's just
Yeah, I've
too
never
frustrating.
played Dark Souls, but I've heard it's you know. Oh, and I'm not even calling for everything to be like that. I don't want insanely hard games to the point of beating your head against the wall. But a decent challenge would, or at least something where you don't you don't pick it up and blow through it in like 30 minutes. I don't know. You need a
Well,
balance is basically what I'm saying. I don't want too difficult, but I don't want something holding my hand all the way. Unless, of course, it's a very story-based experience where the gameplay doesn't really matter too much, and it's not exactly the focus.
or at the very least, have a
Oh yeah, so
selectable
selectable
difficulty.
difficulty settings. Do those
Oh,
even
and
really?
Makiten has a very great point. We don't need another Battletoads.
No, I don't think anybody needs that. And you couldn't even beat that game two-player from my understanding because later in the game there's some glitch that prevents you from doing so.
Well, they didn't expect anyone to get that far.
I don't understand how anybody would get that far, but I'm sure somebody's done it.
Well, with the infinite life hack, it is doable, but uh, so funny we bring up Battletoads. Um, there was a while ago, actually, a race between me and three other players to see who could beat Battletoads first on Infinite Lives. I did not win that competition. In fact, I got stuck in one particular spot and stayed there for a very long time. Um, but it hasn't been uploaded yet, so I can't really get into too many details.
So just check out his channel, damn it.
Well,
Um,
actually, it'll be somebody else's channel it's on, I believe.
oh, okay. Well, I tried.
Well, thank you.
No,
Thank
but yeah, this is they posted it on Rock Paper Shotgun. An end to get good. You don't need to be good at games to enjoy them. And with the headline, obviously, okay, that's an agreeable thing to say, but it's just so stupid how childish we're getting, where it's like, I don't want to hear any criticism for anything about me ever. It's like, that's not how reality works. I mean, who cares if somebody on the internet says that you can't beat a game or you suck at a game? Like, I don't care. If I'm having fun playing that game, it doesn't matter to me what somebody else thinks. People are putting way too much value in the opinions of like random strangers on the internet. And some of that might be by the extension of the fact that we're getting like so immersed in social media, but I feel like it's sending the wrong message.
Some people just can't deal with criticism. I mean, criticism sucks.
It
I
does.
mean,
There's no denying that. It definitely
but it's a
does.
necessary evil. I mean, if you don't have criticism, you can't improve.
And there's also, and there's also a clear difference between actual criticism and somebody just going out of their way to be a dickhead. And more often than not on the internet, I will admit, it's definitely the latter. But the problem comes in when it's just being conflated with all like the actual criticism just ends up conflated with all the insults, and then it turns into editorials like this where like you don't need to be good. Like, did anybody need to know that? I'm pretty sure we all knew this. I just feel like this is a completely pointless thing, and it's just one more way for these journalists to crap on their own community that they're supposed to be, lobbying for and writing for and being a positive part of. But instead, they'd rather focus on the bad people or the online bullies or whatever you want to call them instead of just, being concerned with what matters, which is the games.
Or the lack thereof, depending upon what game you're playing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't I don't think somebody needs to be good at video games to enjoy them, but I think if you're going to be in a position like I said where you're presenting a game almost as an advertisement of that game and of what it's like, you should at least be competent with the basic controls. And if you don't feel like you are, rather than rushing to put something out, and yeah, maybe somebody could argue, oh, well, this is their editor giving them, very specific time constraints. Sure. But you could also take the time to practice before you put something online. I mean, like, even when I've done in the past, when I did some Let's Play videos and I had, like, super bad rounds, um, I would
Scrap that
just,
footage.
yeah, well, not even scrap it, but Metroid Fusion, for example, was one of them. I had a lot of problems beating that on some of the bosses. And rather than, just having the hundreds of deaths or however many, I could be exaggerating a bit there. Instead of leaving that footage in, I was just like, yeah, I died a bunch of times, but I cut that out because nobody you saw me die once, you don't want to watch it over and over and over again.
Well, I know that like when I was doing the Golbez hack of Final Fantasy IV, Golbez, when I fought Golbez in the final dungeon,
Oh, the unexpected boss battle there.
yeah, the unexpected boss battle, I actually have a blooper reel of me just getting decimated by
I
Golbez.
think I saw that because I think I left a comment on your video where you were fighting him.
Yeah, I love Final Fantasy IV, but it's not the game I'm best at. I mean, I statuses and status effects, I never really use those spells to the best of my ability.
Well, in the original Super Nintendo version that we got, most of those status things were basically useless when being used by the party. Um, it wasn't until later versions where they kind of boosted up the usefulness of status effect spells. And I
And
kind
for
of
some
think,
reason, they decided to censor out a bunch of special moves that characters had just because.
yeah, apparently we couldn't handle the dark wave attack here in the U.S. I mean, that was just too much. Some kid might have had nightmares, and no, I don't know. I really don't know what their reasoning was there, but I feel like it was damaging. And it's actually kind of just goes to show how great of a game it really was because it still got super popular despite getting such a hacked up version over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I feel like they made the Dark Knight class pretty much useless. It's like, oh yeah, here's a guy that can fight and use items, and he's my main character.
Well, not just that, but apparently he's supposedly this big bad mofo that apparently, when paired with a dragoon,
Yeah, everybody's like, you go through the town and everyone's like, oh, I'm scared of Dark Knights and stuff like that. But then you get into battle and it's like, why is everyone so scared of this guy? All he can do is hit with his sword.
me hit stuff with sword, make it go owie.
Meanwhile, his partner there can jump like 600 feet in the air and come.
Go up in the air, drink a beer, come back down with a spear.
Cecil's down there with a watch, just tapping it. Yeah, I guess most of this stream has ironically been complaints about video games, but it's a weird thing to me. I just don't remember it being like this. I remember, and maybe it's because we didn't have gaming websites back in the day, and you had to rely on gaming magazines, and all you could do to interact with those magazines was to write a letter and hope your letter got published. But at least in those times, when a video game magazine got like a what would today be considered a trollish letter, they at least had fun with it. They would publish it and they would write some kind of snarky response. It was sarcastic, but it wasn't bullying, basically saying like, "Oh, all gamers are terrible people." It was just a jest, friendly, friendly fodder, I guess you could say.
It was poking fun, but not in a over the top way.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't out to conflate the whole entirety of their viewership with the one person that decided to write something stupid.
I remember one Nintendo Power in particular. Actually, now that we bring this up, and I apologize again for it's just the way my brain works. This one person wrote in saying how many pixels can be on a screen from the Super Nintendo after doing a lot of math in this one letter that they wrote to Nintendo Power.
Oh man.
And after all that math and all that stuff, they just posted, yeah, that's some good information right there. And that was their response that they published.
Well, wow. At the very least, they published his letter, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny though.
I'm almost tearing up laughing about that.
But yeah, I've kind of lost focus here, but I feel like we had a pretty decent conversation. So I think an hour, a little over an hour, is good enough for this one. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you next time. I am probably going to take my butt over to Twitch and maybe play some games over there for a little while. So if anybody wants to join me, the link is in pretty much every video description I have ever. But yeah, thanks for coming, and we'll be back next time. Thanks for joining me, Riskman.
Anytime.
All right, see you guys later.
See ya.